Hello YouTube. I'm continuing with my information about the KGB and the UFO files and some of the interesting cases from the so-called Blue File of 1991. What I want to talk, the report here I want to present is about an observation of an anomalous phenomenon in the Tiksi Peninsula area, a very strategic area for the Soviet Union and the Russian Federation today. The report took place in 1987. On August 14 of that year, the name, it was deleted, of the radar outpost of the Air Defense Commander of the headquarters discovered an unidentified target at the altitude of 3,000 meters, its speed reaching 400 kilometers per hour. 6 minutes later, the target disappeared from the radar screen. Half an hour later, the target was again discovered, now closer to the Tiksi. A military helicopter sent to the site did not find the unidentified target. The helicopter's commander, Captain Zikeyev, observed 2 inversion trails going into the clouds. He then returned to the airport. An 12 airplane on a weather reconnaissance mission was ordered to the site of the target. Colonel Labanov, the flight commander, upon reaching the altitude of 4,000 meters, observed an odd-shaped transparent cloud. Its color was emerald with violet tint. Inside the cloud he saw dark spots. The cloud seemed to move as Colonel saw 2 inversion trails behind it. The ground control of the air defense unit registered that when the helicopter and the airplane approached the unidentified target, radio communication with both deteriorated due to interference. The target disappeared from the radar screens shortly thereafter. Now, something interesting. Yuri Andropov, who was the leader of the Soviet Union's KGB, he showed an acute interest in the UFO and ordered, according to Pravda newspaper, establishment of a program that lasted 13 years. A program that required that each soldier monitor the Soviet sky in search of sightings. That's what Setka program was all about. But I'm presenting you various angles of this information. Now, stunning information came to light in the year of 2003. There was a very interesting article written by somebody named Chizhikov, and in Russian it was titled «В столе Андропова лежала папка с секретами инопланетян», or in English, Andropov's desk had a file with the secrets of extraterrestrials. It was published in Komsomolskaya Pravda newspaper on March 19, 2003. And by the way, the head of the science department of the Komsomolskaya Pravda is somebody who I had been in touch with since the early 1990s. And he's a hell of a researcher and provides very interesting information. Vladimir Lagovsky is the person. And sometime later I'll present some of his information too, and some of my research in connection with this. But let's get back to the article. Igor Sinitsyn, who worked with Andropov for 6 years as his aide in the Politburo, revealed that the Soviet leader maintained a file on the UFOs in his daily agenda. General Secretary of the Communist Party of the Soviet Union, Yuri Andropov, the Soviet leader who was feared and former long-time head of the KGB, had a very keen personal interest in UFOs. Andropov kept a file on the UFO phenomena in his desk. Sinitsyn, who exposed the information, mentioned that one of his responsibilities was to monitor the foreign press, and he brought Andropov to a Stern magazine piece about UFOs. Stern is the West German magazine at the time. The year was 1977, and the Petrozavodsk phenomenon was on the minds of Western observers, underground ufologists, and KGB officers. Sinitsyn was hesitant about presenting the piece from Stern to his grim superior, so that he would not be considered a lunatic. But Andropov's reaction was much unexpected. Andropov handed Sinitsyn the text of an official report he had ordered from the Counter-Espionage Directorate. The text described a UFO appearance in Astrakhan that an officer had seen while fishing there. The 1978 case I described below was the case that interested former chief of the Soviet secret police. His reign between 1967 and 1983 was well known for the draconian suppression of political dissidents, and as we learned after the fall of the USSR, this very intelligent person was also interested in UFOs. Because of him, the case was turned over to the Setka-AN program via the Military Industrial Commission, according to Andropov's assistant Igor Sinitsyn. The officer who had witnessed the phenomenon had sent his report to the chairman of the KGB. I collected this information from a number of sources. This officer, prior to his career in the KGB, served in the Soviet Air Force Bomber Regiment. He knew astronomy and navigation. He was also a navigator of the Bomber Squadron at one time. Now, in brief, on June 26, 1978, K. Medvedov, a KGB officer in the Military Counterintelligence Directorate, along with some companions, was aboard a cutter watercraft in the Volga floodplains, about 1.5 kilometers from the Mumra settlement in the Astrakhan region. Late in the evening, they noticed a bright dot in the starry sky in the area of the North Star. It was larger and brighter than other celestial bodies. A few minutes later, the dot sharply descended, increasing its size, and reached the altitude of about 600 meters. Thereafter, it moved eastward. As the dot descended, it acquired the shape of a saucer, turned at an angle resembling an elliptical body, like the discus used in men's competition. The observers clearly saw it was a material object of bright bluish silver color. Before turning into a horizontal position, the object grew to approximately 150 meters in size, and in the middle of it Medvedov saw two bright lights, like headlights of an automobile. The left one emitted a bright ray toward the ground, its edges sharp, disseminating at an angle of 30 degrees. Its middle part was dimmed. The ray was rotating around. The impression was that it did not reach the ground. Its color was bright white. Medvedov wore tinted glasses and recalled a rosy tint. As the object approached them, the observers discerned a weak halo that later became bright white in color. The object stopped over them, and the radiance around the observers and the watercraft increased. A minute later, the air mass under the object stirred, as well as seemingly the object. 2 minutes later, the object suddenly vanished. The halo, poorly visible, remained, and it dissipated around the sky in the next 20 minutes. Medvedov called 3 other companions from the bunk room when the object became visible. All of them had observed the phenomenon. The KGB officer verified his observations with all of his companions and kept precise time of the occurrence. He stressed that no alcoholic drinks were consumed aboard the watercraft. It was their tradition not to drink. In the archive of the Setka-AN program, this case is registered under number 96. The head of the scientific division of the Setka program, whose last name was Migulin, received the report among the first military UFO observations sent to the Academy of Sciences of the USSR. And according to Sinitsyn, it was Andropov who was instrumental in the creation of the Setka programs. Sinitsyn added that the KGB controlled what was published on the subject of UFOs in many other countries. Now, this is very cryptic. He also said that both military and civilian UFO research centers were created under the KGB direction. In my first video about the KGB, I presented you the information from Nikolai Sham, who released the files, the 124 pages of the KGB files. And those who are interested, they know how to contact me. Now, here Sinitsyn presented something else. I also have another information from Ukraine, an independent country which also had people who worked in the KGB. And in the future, I'll cover what they revealed. But this gives you an overall picture that is still blurry, but at least we know that in the Soviet Union, the government was extremely interested in UFOs and kept them, of course, under the lid, so to say, for the general public not to get interested in, but at the same time they were quite worried about the UFOs and USOs. And I'll continue presenting such information for you in the future. Thank you.